Hello everyone, sorry, slight technical issue just then, had to restart it. Welcome to day 2 of the Ayurvedic Contentment Challenge. Thank you so much for we've had loads and loads of posts this morning about the pranayama, about having, quite a few of you seem to have got it done quite early on in the day, which is brilliant. You've got that 10-minute practice, out of the bag straight away, which is brilliant. So massive well done if you've done it. Holly Watts, all clear. Hi Jeanette. Okay, everyone can hear me. That's good. So there's no problems with the connection. So welcome to kind of day 2. Obviously day 1. Today's day 1 of the actual challenge, but today we're talking about what we're doing tomorrow. Remember, this challenge is accumulative. The aim being that today we try and get the pranayama embedded. Tomorrow we look to implement some of the gut approaches we're talking about now, whilst keeping the pranayama. So we're getting this accumulative kind of load and benefit. Because the camera is a little bit further away from me now so everyone can see this, I can't see who's pinging up on the screen, so I'm not ignoring you or not kind of being rude. It's just I can't quite see who's logging in. So today I want to talk about the gut connection. And again, when we were designing this challenge and what was going into it, it was a bit of a no-brainer really, excuse the pun, that the approaches for supporting gut health and supporting the microbiome, it had to go into this challenge. It would be bad practice from a conventional standpoint, but also even more so from an Ayurvedic standpoint. And I think, if we look at the research around why the gut is so important, it's mind-blowing, and it's important in terms of all of the health of us collectively. It's important with regards to our physical health. We know our gut is involved in our immune function, in our inflammatory pathways. We know it regulates so many variables that are needed to keep our body physically fit and well. But we're not going to go into that too much today because this is a contentment challenge. So what I want to do is focus in on why the gut connection is so integral for our happiness, our mood, and our contentment. And then I want to go through 3 approaches that are integral to that. And I want to say straight off the bat that, we don't need a doctoral degree, or we don't need to be a gut health scientist to make our gut bulletproof. We don't need loads of pills and potions and prebiotics and supplements to make our gut in tip-top condition. Okay, we don't need it. We just need simple daily dietary approaches. That's enough, because I think actually I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm going to talk about why the gut connection is so integral. Okay, with regards to our contentment, our mood, and our happiness. So the microbiome is probably one of the most fundamentally important areas of the body, and the microbiome is the concentration of good bacteria in the gut compared to the concentration of the bad bacteria. And the higher that disparity, the healthier our gut is. And the reason that is so integral, the reason the microbiome is so integral to our mood, is because if you think about our 2 key, what are called happy hormones, serotonin and dopamine. They're the hormones that stimulate and activate the brain in a way that makes us, radiant and happy and joyful and ultimately contented. They're often called contentment hormones. And when we've got good levels of those 2 hormones flooding through the body and supporting the brain, the evidence is 100% clear that our mood and contentment increases with it. We know that when our mood drops, when we feel, I'm not talking about depression here, although those hormones are implicated in depression. I'm talking about just not feeling content, not feeling happy, not feeling at peace, feeling a little bit flat, a little bit blue. We know that it's largely because those hormones are too low. The levels in the body, the levels in the brain are too low to lift us up, to lift our mood up. Why is that? What's the relationship between that and the gut? Well, the key thing, the most important thing is, dopamine and serotonin are thought of, they're neurochemicals, they're neurohormones that affect the brain. But between 80 and 90%, 80 to 90%, so virtually all of the serotonin and dopamine in our body is produced and secreted by the gut, okay? And that is, the implications of that are paradigm changing. That's quite a new discovery. It's quite a new concept. It's now unequivocally proven. It's inarguable. You know, we know scientifically up to 90% of all of those hormone concentrations are produced in the gut. So we've got a healthy gut, we've got more serotonin and dopamine, which means we feel happier, we feel more contented, we feel more bubbly and jubilant and radiant. If our gut is toxic, if our gut is something called dysbiotic, which is where there's too much bad bacteria, we know that has a really significant impact upon reducing the volume of serotonin and the volume of dopamine that our gut produces, and therefore our mood drops, our contentment drops. Okay, so we can think of the gut as the manufacturing station of contentment. We spoke yesterday about swastha. You know, swastha is heavily produced in the gut. That sense of contentment, that sense of safety, that sense of being in control, that sense of peace is biochemically produced in the gut. So we need our gut to be clean. And why is that a challenge? Well, the biggest thing that threatens the health of our gut is toxins, something called dysbiosis. So if good gut health is dependent upon a lot of good bacteria and not much bad bacteria, as toxic load increases, that ratio changes. And as the bad bacteria increase, that destroys more of the good bacteria. We produce less dopamine, less serotonin, we feel less good. So the key is to not let toxic waste accumulate in the colon. Where does toxic waste come from? Toxic waste comes from digesting food poorly, digesting food slowly, eating the right kind of food. If you imagine, we're eating lots of heavy food, lots of hard to digest food. That food, we digest it and it sits in the gut for, 1, 2, 3, 4+ days in some cases. And you think about what happens, it ferments, it putrefies, it rots in what is 38, 39 degrees of body temperature. It releases gases, it releases toxins, it releases all kinds of bad bacteria, and that is what makes the gut toxic. You then add to that issues like antibiotics from being prescribed them, also antibiotics in the food we eat, the animal products we eat, the milk we drink, the dairy products we consume. Suddenly our gut is in a situation where it doesn't know how to work properly because it hasn't got the raw materials it needs to do so. And this is an endemic problem in the Western world at the moment. So the key, the foundation of having a healthy gut is to make sure we are digesting our food properly and efficiently and effectively. And Ayurveda stated about 3,500 years ago that 90% of all illness, all disease, all pathology originates in the gut. And actually that was a little bit wrong to a degree because Western medicine is now saying it's closer to 97, 98%, okay? And that includes emotional and mental illnesses. So because Ayurveda has emphasized the need to keep our gut healthy as the foundation of health, it has a whole science, a whole framework for allowing us to optimize and strengthen our gut health. And that science, that is something called Agni Dipana, which is a way of existing, a way of eating, a way of supporting our digestive system that allows us to eat food, digest it really quickly, extract maximum nutrients, so we get better health promoting benefits from the food we eat, and crucially, it doesn't allow the food to putrefy and rot in the gut. So it circumvents the whole problem. And there are 3 approaches that I'd like to talk about that are integral to facilitating a healthy gut. And each one is important, but it's a synergistic benefit. If you just do one of them, you get a gain. But if you're doing all 3 together regularly, you get this synergistic gain where the whole is greater than the sum of the 3 individual parts. And this would be a real big takeaway message from this whole week for me. Because not just is it integral with regards to swastha and contentment, but in terms of things like cardiovascular diseases, cancer risk factors, stroke, Alzheimer's, it's implicated in those as well. So this is a bedrock of health. And the 3 approaches I want to talk about is 1, making sure we're supporting our body to effectively and efficiently digest food. Secondly is the fundamental importance of prebiotics. And thirdly, the fundamental importance of probiotics, but not shoppable probiotics, which are expensive, they're aggressive, they're not usually needed, okay, other than certain instances. And if we can get these things effortlessly integrated into our life, and they're subtle, we don't need big changes, we don't need to necessarily change our shopping or our meals, we just need a couple of tweaks, and suddenly in a couple of days, we're giving the body all the support it needs to make our gut as healthy as it can be. And if we do that, we're going to feel a significant increase in our physical health, our emotional health, our contentment, and our swastha. Okay, so the first one, in the workbook, you would have seen a recipe for a herbal infusion, okay, which you make up in the morning in a flask and you sip it all day long, okay. And the reason, so that's called the flask method, and the reason the flask method works very, very well is it is a bit like why intravenous antibiotics or intravenous medicine works more effectively than oral medicine. Because if you have antibiotics in the morning, and then or medicine in the morning, and then again in the afternoon, and then in the evening, you get a big dose, and then nothing. Big dose, then nothing. Big dose, then nothing. If you have medicines intravenously, you get a drip, drip, drip all the time. So you're continually topping your body up with these medicinal properties. And the flask method is like that. Rather than having a big cup in the morning and a big cup in the afternoon and a big cup in the evening, which is still really good, if you're having a small amount regularly, you're sipping every half hour, one, it keeps the body really well hydrated, which is integral, but two, you're flooding your digestive system with these clinically proven herbal compounds that are so profoundly effective at supporting optimal digestion, increasing the breakdown of food, increasing the speed at which we break down food, increasing the clearance of toxins from the gut, and helping us extract more nutrients from the food we eat. And those four herbs, coriander seeds, cumin seeds, fennel seeds, and fresh ginger, they are so effective in that capacity. And you might not need to use the flask method every day. I don't use the flask method every day. I probably use it 3-4 times a week, I'd say. I just have it by my desk and I just sip on it. I sip all day. It's a brilliant way of hydrating. It tastes good. And it just means when you have lunch, when you have dinner, your body's got these chemical components that just allow it to dominate our digestion of those foods, and it makes a really big impact. And even more so if you suffer with problems like bloating, distension, cramping, wind, sluggish digestion, fatigue, if you get tired after eating, those kinds of things. So the first thing is to look at that recipe, and the first challenge of contentment ritual number 2 is to make that herbal tea. And whether you do it in the flask and you sip it all day, or if you haven't got a flask or you don't want to do that, just make 1 cup in the afternoon and 1 cup in the evening and just drink it like a normal cup of tea. That's still going to give you a really, really significant benefit. You don't need special herbs. Coriander seeds, cumin seeds, and fennel seeds you get from the Tesco's or the Co-op or Sainsbury's will suffice. We don't need any dispensary herbs for this. So we use that flask method in clinic, I would imagine, in about 80% of people we work with. And it never ceases to amaze me how impactful it is. Within about 4 or 5 days, people say, my digestive system is balanced. I know my bowel function normalizes. I've got more energy. I haven't got bloating, or I don't look like I'm 6 months pregnant after I eat, all these kinds of things. And the herbs that go into that flask method are all clinically proven. So in terms of preventing toxins building up in the gut, which threaten our gut health, which in turn threatens our contentment, that I think as a preventative is second to none. And I'm convinced of that, having used it personally and professionally for so long. There's lots of questions coming up. I can't see them because they're a bit too far away, but once I've finished, I'll go over to the camera and I'll read through them all, and I'll answer them, or I'll answer them later or whatever, but we will answer all of the questions that are pinging up. Okay, so the first thing, look at that recipe and just try and drink a couple of cups a day. Whether that's the challenge. Okay, whether it's a flask, whether it's just cups, that's the first challenge of day 2. Just have a go of using that infusion. If you want, you can add a little bit of honey to make it a little bit sweeter if that's your thing. Okay, so that's the first priority. The second priority and the third priority are kind of joined into one, and they're prebiotics and probiotics. So probiotics and gut health, it's everywhere. You can't open a newspaper or a health publication without there being something about the microbiome. And that's good in a way, but it's also bad in a way, I think, because it's spawned this massive industry that is probiotic supplements. And that, I think probiotic supplements are absolutely brilliant and mandatory in certain instances. If you've had antibiotics, if you've got things like thrush, or if you've got active infections, then probiotics are, I think, if you had you come off the back of a gastric infection, things like that, I think probiotics, supplement, capsule-based probiotics, I think are absolutely mandatory because the evidence is clear around what that does to protect us from the damage that antibiotics cause to the gut, what infections do to the gut. Okay, but that's obviously quite a rare, that's a very infrequent event, hopefully. We don't come down with lots of acute infections. So what I'm against is this idea that we need to take probiotic supplements every day to keep our gut healthy, because we haven't evolved like that. If you look at the research around indigenous cultures, Southern Africa, Australia, South America, where people, where they've been analysed, where they don't have processed foods, they're eating lots of fibre and vegetables, their gut health is absolutely 100% perfect, and they've never seen a probiotic supplement. Okay, so I'm not suggesting that probiotics aren't good supplements. I'm just saying we don't need them. And Ayurveda has a whole framework around supporting gut health using food combinations, and that's what I want to talk about today, because probiotics most people are aware of, but probiotics are no good without prebiotics. So prebiotics are compounds that lay the foundation in the gut for the healthy bacteria to grow. So it's almost like the catalyst. If you're putting in loads of probiotics, but you haven't got enough prebiotics, then there's not the environment for the good bacteria to grow and proliferate. So you need the prebiotics. So in Ayurveda, there's something called the 6 tastes. So the human taste buds and the chemical responses that come from them recognize 6 tastes: sweet, salty, sour, bitter, pungent, and astringent. And of those 6 tastes, the bitter tastes, and particularly the bitter green vegetables, your kale, your chard, your pak choi, your courgettes, all of those kinds of things, they are some of the most powerful prebiotic foods in the world. Also your whole grains. And the bitter tastes are probably the tastes that people in the West get the least of. They're the ones that we don't prioritize, because they're not that the reason they're called bitters is because a lot of the time they don't actually taste nice. There's evidence to suggest that the bitter taste buds in the humans are de-evolving because we're having so much sweet food, so much sour food, and so much processed food. So what we're going to do is we're in the comments below, in the comments after this video, we're going to post up a link which gives you I think it's about a 15-minute series, which comes from something called the Ayurvedic Mentor, which we'll talk about on Friday. It's a whole episode devoted to the health benefits of bitter foods, what they are, and how to get more into our diet effortlessly. Okay, so that is a really big takeaway, both in terms of the contentment challenge, but also in terms of general health going forward and disease prevention. Look at what you're eating over the course of any given day and quantify how much bitter food is going into your diet, because if it's suboptimal, that's going to be having a really big impact upon things like immunity, but primarily gut health. Okay, so it's really, really, really important we're consuming a good quantity of bitter foods every day. So please, please, please check out that short video, because it's really, really helpful in terms of making it very commonsensical. So if you're getting in your bitter foods, that gives your gut the foundation it needs to allow the probiotics to proliferate. The next priority is then to actually populate the gut with the good probiotics. And there's lots. What I want to talk about and what I want to make now is something called, excuse my dog barking, it must be the postman. It's something called Taka. Okay, and Taka is kind of the primary Ayurvedic probiotic, and I love it. Okay, we use it all the time. It tastes good. You can change it. You can be sweet. It can be savoury. You can mix and match it. But the beauty of it is that it's loaded with probiotics. It's super easy to digest. It's super nourishing, and because of the way it's processed, we take out most of the fat. Okay, so it's a digestive, it's an aperitif, it's a whole body tonic. It's used for things like chronic fatigue. But the main thing we're talking about, there's loads of clinical indications for using Tarka, but the reason we're talking about it today is because I think it's the ultimate natural probiotic. Like I said, we don't need to be using probiotics every day shop bought, unless there's a reason specifically for it. But I do think we need to be using natural probiotic foods, at least 4, 5, 6 times a week, because we have to take proactive control of our gut, and if we do that, our mental health, our emotional health is going to increase. And this, for me, is the go-to option. This is what we've used for decades. It's what we'll always use. It's my favourite way of ensuring that I'm giving my gut and Holly's gut and the kids' gut the probiotic support it needs. So all Tarka uses natural yogurt. So all natural yogurt, in theory, should be probiotic. Okay, in the same way that all beef burgers should be beef, but Horsegate showed that beef burgers often aren't all beef; they've got horse meat in it. And it's the same with natural yogurt. All natural yogurt should be powerfully probiotic, but because of the way it's made and processed, we prefer to buy a natural yogurt that is certified as having the probiotic strains in it. And the most important, the best one that we can find is this one here, the Yeo Valley Organic, okay, which you can get from any, even small co-op or Tesco's, because in it guarantees the live cultures of 4 to 5 of the most important probiotic strains. Okay, so it quantifies it, it qualifies it, it measures it. Okay, so this is the one that we always use, we always get, because it's the one, like I say, it takes away the guesswork of, is this natural yogurt good enough to ensure I'm getting the benefits? It makes it genuine, it makes it evidence-based, it makes it clear. Okay, so Tarka is where you mix a small amount of that with a bigger amount of water and you blend it. You blend it for a couple of minutes. And what that does, I'll show you in a minute, what that does, it separates the fat from the yogurt. And then once you've blended it, you're left with something that looks like that. Okay, and that is, if you carry on churning that makes butter. Okay, so that's the fat that you scrape off the Tarka. So what you're left with is a really watery, slightly opaque probiotic that is super easy to digest. It's virtually fat-free. It doesn't clog things up. It doesn't create mucus. It doesn't, a lot of people who have dairy allergies can still use Tarka. It's low calorie. It's phenomenally energy providing. It's a brilliant natural probiotic that's about 95% cheaper than supplements. You can use it day in, day out, and it's just a win-win. And it's things like turmeric. Everyone knows turmeric is good for you, and it's amazing. It amazes me that Tarka isn't on the radar in the West, because it's just an absolute no-brainer. And you can make a sweet one, you can make a savoury one. So all you do, and we'll send out the instructions for this. So it's always 1/4 yogurt to 3/4 water. That's always the ratio. So you get your yogurt, and you get a quarter of a cup of your natural yogurt, and then 3/4 of a cup of water. Ideally, it should be filled with water, but we haven't got a filter, so we just use tap water. And then all you do, obviously excuse the noise, you blend it for usually about 2 minutes, but I'm not going to do it that long. I'm just going to do it to enough to show you what you skim off the top. Okay. Also, excuse the very old hand whisker that is probably from the 1970s. My mum gave us this when we first bought a house, and it's literally about 15 years old. So we're not it's not too high tech, but. Right, so ideally, that was about 30 seconds, 40 seconds. Ideally, you do that for 2 minutes, because the more you whisk it, the more you separate the fat. Okay, so what the fat looks like is, you get a spoon. So it's all the foam, I don't know if you can see that, all the foam at the top. So what you do is you get a spoon and you scoop off all of the crud at the top, which is like semi-solid, until all you're left with is this very, very thin, opaque liquid, which is called tarka, which is the probiotic, okay? I'm just going to skim this off. And then, if you leave that, after about half an hour, it will become almost solid, like that, okay? And then all you do is you add that into your cup, and normally that would look a lot more opaque because I didn't beat it for enough because I didn't want you guys to have to watch 2 minutes while I whisk something. And then that is a virtually fat-free, powerful probiotic that is loaded with the proven cultures in a way that in the way that normal dairy, particularly yogurt, can be cloying, it can be congesting, it's quite hard to digest, it can often cause sluggishness because you mixed it with 3/4 water, it thins it down. Because you've taken off the curd, it makes it all the kind of the less good stuff, the heavy, cloying, sluggish stuff you've taken out. And then you've got a couple of options. You can either add about a teaspoon of raw honey, and that's my preference because raw honey is prebiotic. Raw honey is clinically proven as a prebiotic, and it's proven to support gut health. So by mixing honey with that in one very small amount, you've got a proven prebiotic and a proven probiotic. So you drink it down and you tick both boxes in what takes about 3 minutes of effort, okay? Or you can add a savoury option, and this is a cumin and ground ginger blend, okay? So all you do then is you just take a little pinch of that and you put that in and then give that a stir. And actually, personally I prefer the honey because I've got a bit more of a sweet tooth, but if that's more of a digestive, a herbal digestive. So it's very common in Ayurvedic medicine to have something like that after you eat because it helps to digest things. Tarka is digestive supporting, it facilitates stronger digestion. Okay, so I guess the second priority of this daily ritual, this challenge, is so you're using the flask method like we've just spoken about, is to have a go of making tarka. Head out to the shops, buy a really good natural live yogurt, ideally one that's got the specified levels of certain cultures in, and then just make 1 cup a day of that and drink that every day for this week, and ideally every day kind of forever, because it's just, I think so many people, us included, I think if we didn't have tarka, we do have sauerkraut, but we don't have it that often. We do have kefir, we buy kefir, but not that often. So actually, the level of fermented food that we get is probably quite low. This just takes care of it for me. It takes care of the probiotic side. And if I get, if I have antibiotics or I come down with an infection, I'll use over-the-counter probiotics. But 99% of our year, this is going to suffice as long as we've got the right level of prebiotics going in, which is where the bitter foods come in, like I spoke about. Okay, so 2, I guess, challenges to add on to your pranayama practice. Make and try the herbal infusion, a couple of cups a day, or the flask method, and make a tarka. Try the savoury one, which is a small pinch of cumin, small pinch of ginger, or try it with raw honey, which is my preferred way of using it personally because I think it's a little bit tastier and it's got the prebiotics. Okay, and also one other thing I want to point out is that we've got in these challenges, we obviously have a very diverse range of people. We've got everyone from a 23-year-old student all the way through to I think a 91-year-old. And everyone's got different time resources. You might be flat out a single working mum who's trying to squeeze 100 things into a short day, or you might be retired and you've got loads of time on your hands. So you have to make this challenge and you have to make self-care fit you, okay? Because you don't want it to create stress. So I'd love to say that I do an hour of pranayama and meditation every day, but I don't, because life is busy, particularly with the kids off school, with whatnot. So don't let anyone else, myself included, dictate what you do in terms of time. If you just sit down and you do a 5-minute pranayama and you just make a quick taka, that's it. If you get up and you've got you have 30 minutes pranayama and meditation and half hour yoga, and then you have whatever, that's brilliant too. But one isn't better than the other. We're all doing the best we can. Okay, so don't feel pressurized, or don't feel bad if you're doing kind of less or more than anyone else. It's about you and me as individuals, and there's no right or wrong. 1 minute of self-care is better than none. Okay, that's it. So if you've done your pranayama today, brilliant. If you haven't done it, then try and get it done. If you can't get it done today, then there's no drama. Just try and do it tomorrow, or try and do it Wednesday. Take the idea when it comes to self-care, the buzzword for us is effortlessness. It needs to be organic. It needs to be effortlessness. As soon as we start straining, pushing, it becomes counterproductive. It needs to be enjoyable and effortlessness. So if we can try and get I haven't done pranayama today yet. I'm going to do it this afternoon. Just try and get the pranayama embedded today, and try and get the gut connection embedded tomorrow. Okay, because this is really, really important. So I hope that's been helpful. I hope it's been interesting. It really is important to look after our gut in so many ways, but particularly when it comes to emotional health, contentment and swasthana, which is why Ayurveda has this whole framework around gut health, which is a fast track to developing swasthana. Okay, so I'm just going to go and have a look at some of the questions now. Bear with me. Right. Right. Where are we? I've done it today, it's lovely. Good, Lucy, I'm pleased you enjoyed the tea. I do it every day, I'm sipping now, brilliant. Does it matter to drink before or after? No, it doesn't make any difference. Is taking kefir enough? Yeah, so if you don't always need both. If you're taking kefir and it's good quality, that's going to tick the same box. It might be you add in the taka as well if you're having antibiotics or to give it a bit of a lift, but kefir is going to be enough. I eat spinach a lot, but was told with thyroid no kale. Yeah, spinach is fine, that's not a problem. Is coconut organic yogurt okay? I don't have dairy. It wouldn't be if it's pure coconut oil, because obviously it's the cultures that give it the probiotics, but you can buy culture infused vegan yogurts where they've added the culture to the almond or the coconut, so you can get that. Do you make it fresh each day? Yeah, so you make it up there and then, because it only takes 2 minutes or 3 minutes, so you make it up fresh each day. I'd like to make my own dairy-free yogurt prime with probiotics. Yeah, Holly and I were talking about that before we went live, and we haven't done that, but it's something we'd love to do when we get a bit more time, is to make our own yogurt and make it from start to finish. Low tech, preferable and easy. Yeah, low tech is, as long as it works, yeah. The old ones are the best, they are. Can you use the leftover for something? You can use, if you make a lot of it, the actual milk fat, the curd, you can churn that to make butter, to make ghee if you want to. Okay, so you can. How long does it keep? You want to drink it there and then keep. You don't want to make that and leave it, because it's going to degrade. You want to make it and you want to drink it there and then. It doesn't keep. So can you do the same process with kefir to make taka? You could, yeah, so you could add the kefir to the taka, so then you're kind of doubling up, would be fine. I've never done it, so I wouldn't know. I agree with Holly, what's there. Bridget, how long does it keep? Yeah, it doesn't keep. You need to make it and drink it there and then. Can you do anything with the curd? Yep, you can churn that to make butter if you've got enough of it and you've got the time. Michelle, can you have cumin, ginger and honey? Yes, you can. There's if you look at classical Ayurveda, there's dozens and dozens of taka recipes. There's anti-inflammatory ones where you've got turmeric and ginger. There's digestive ones which you've got fennel and cumin. There's hormonal ones where you've got things like ashwagandha and shatavari. So you could add the honey and the herbs, absolutely. Such a reassuring comment saying, I love these challenges, at times when hard to find. Yeah, so Lynn, don't ever feel pressurized. If you sit down and do 1 minute of pranayama and nothing else, this challenge would have been a success as far as I'm concerned, okay? 1 minute of self-care will have an impact upon the body, so don't ever feel pressured. Can you have kefir daily instead of Taka? Yeah, you can have kefir daily. I do the flask every day. It's life-changing, it really is. If we all do what we can, and frankly, any addition is better than no action. Done is better than perfect. Done is better than perfect. That should be the mantra of this whole week. Done is better than perfect. Is kefir, turmeric and pepper a good alternative? Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Thank you, Mary, Ray. I take intestinal, what's a prebiotic and fiber? Yeah, that's brilliant. That's all fine. As long as you're having probiotics, it's just, for me, dietary probiotics outweigh supplement probiotics just because I think they're more natural. And there is definitely a move. There's quite a very vocal, high-profile doctor in America called Zach Bush, who's really against long-term probiotic supplements because of a variety of reasons. So, Rachel, a NutriBullet could be used, or does it overdo it? Yeah, a NutriBullet could be used. The only problem we find with that is that when you tip it up the other way to undo the top, it often remixes the curd and the liquid, and it stops the separation. So you can use the NutriBullet, but you get a lot less of the curd afterwards. Okay. No, so Lucy, Taka is also the name of the dal, which is just to add to the confusion. So Taka is what we've made there. Taka dal is a type of mung, a split bean, which is lentil, which is used in curries and khichdi and things like that. So it's slightly different. Okay. So thank you for signing in to have a watch today. So hopefully you can go out and get your yogurt and make the Taka dal, make the infusion, and let's support our gut health. That's the second contentment ritual, the second challenge of the week. Okay, try and get the probiotic in the bag if you can. But other than that, so one last question. Can I clarify? Taka covers pre and probiotic. Yes, if you add the honey. Taka is both prebiotic and probiotic. If you add the spices without the honey, it's just probiotic. Okay. How can I learn about the anti-inflammatory? The anti-inflammatory, so if you're after the anti-inflammatory Taka, it's exactly the same, but you add turmeric, a little pinch of black pepper, and ginger. Okay, and about half a teaspoon into the mix. Okay. Yeah, keep the photo. It's so great. Let's keep on raising the vibration. Kind of just raise their energy. The more posts, share your photos, share your food, share your Taka. Share everything. Let's get this real energy in the group because it changes things big time. So thanks for joining us this afternoon. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you tomorrow at 12, where we're talking herbal medicines for mood and contentment, which are very, very powerful. Okay, so have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you soon.